بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم اللهم اجعل في قلبي نورا وفي لساني نورا واجعل في سمعي نورا واجعل في بصيري نورا واجعل خلفي نورا وأمامي نورا واجعل من قلبي نورا اللهم أعطني نورا آمين. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today we will be continuing our studying of the ninth word together. Last week our moderator had studied it all together with us up until the fourth point. We read the first paragraph of the fourth point, but I think we'll just reread that and see how we can understand it and connect it to our own lives and to what we experience in our existence, inshallah. So as a summary, this ninth word is about the Quranic verses in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. So glorify God when you reach evening and when you rise in the morning, for all praise is his in the heavens and on earth, and towards the end of the day and when you have reached noon. It's from chapter 30, verses 17 to 18. And the author of this text says that here he will, in this ninth word, talk about the wisdom in the times of the prayers, but also expands on the meaning of worship as well, and the meaning of what it means to engage in prayer. So just as a brief summary and of what has been discussed and talked about in previous weeks, the first point was about how glorification, exaltation, and praise are like the seeds of prayers and the meanings of those phrases and the weight they carry. The second point was about how worship and prayer is a realization of one's existential poverty, right? Existential neediness. How prayer is proclaiming that I realize my own needs as well as the needs of all things given existence. And then we discussed the third point about how prayer is an index of all worship, that the human being is an index to all qualities manifested in the world, right? Because, as a human being, I can appreciate all the qualities in this world, and that prayer in a similar way is a comprehensive manner, is a comprehensive summary of all types of prayers, of one's tongue, of one's body, of all the ways in which I engage in actions, of the prayers of all creatures, all the ways in which things that are being given existence express this reality, express how they are being sustained. And so now we are at the fourth point, and in this fourth point, I'll begin by maybe reading the first two paragraphs, and we'll see where the discussion goes from there on. And let me start. So in this fourth point, it states, the second hand, minute hand, hour hand, and day hand of a clock, which tells the weeks, look to one another, are examples of one another, and follow one another. Similarly, the alternations of day and night, which are like the seconds of this world, a vast clock of Almighty God, and the years which tell its minutes, and the stages of man's lifespan, which tell the hours, and the epochs of the world's lifespan, which tells the days, look to one another, are examples of one another, resemble one another, and recall one another. So here, I think initially it might be a little confusing, but we also kind of briefly touched upon it last week, and one of the explanations given was just as the hands of a clock, right? The part of it that shows a second, the part of it that shows a minute, hour, and then if it has a day hand, all of these are interrelated. And just as they are interrelated, the days and nights of this world and the way in which they follow each other are like share the same interrelation with other spheres or realms of time, right? Um, the passing of the day into the night and the night into the day is also related with the passing of a month into a year, and the year into a decade, and a decade into a century, and so forth. Um, and and the author is mentioning this because this interrelation shows that just as prayer is related, is connected to time, prayer encompasses all time. And since time is connected and interrelated with all of that occurs within it, all of space, prayer is connected and encompasses all time, and by virtue of that, all space. I think the explanation, the examples that will be given through the times of the prescribed prayers will kind of open this up, I hope, and we can try to understand it together this morning. So he begins the time of Fajr, the early morning, the time until sunrise resembles and calls to mind the early spring, the moment of conception in the mother's womb, and the first of the 6 days of the creation of the heavens and earth. It recalls divine acts present in them. So Fajr, the early morning, this time until sunrise resembles and calls to mind the early spring, the moment of conception in the mother's womb, and the first of the 6 days of the creation of the heavens and earth. It recalls the divine acts present in them. So some initial thoughts is that all of these times that it's saying the time of Fajr resembles, early spring, conception. You can say the beginning of the universe, all of everything that exists as we know it. All of these are a beginning point, a point of something new, right? Like early spring is when we can really experience how things are being given existence so readily, right? The blooming of flowers, green leaves just kind of arising from dead branches that we might be seeing nowadays. We see life being created in a very vivid, in a very apparent fashion. And similarly, the moment of conception in the mother's womb, it seems like from nothing, from uh, you know, from fluids, from things that most certainly can't be the source of existence themselves, comes life and existence and being, in the form of a baby, in the form of a child, right? Uh, and similarly, I mean, when it says the first of the 6 days of the creation of the heavens and earth, I take that to mean just, all of this is also just the point in which creation is seen, in which creation is experienced. And I think that we don't necessarily have to give a specific temporal designation to time of Fajr, right? It's represented through the early morning, because dawn also represents a new beginning, a new existence. But in a certain manner, I think all moments, can be considered not to be misunderstood, but can be considered a time of Fajr, can be considered moments in which existence is being created anew. Um, because we see that there must be constant creation, that there must be someone or one, something that is giving existence to everything anew every single moment. Uh, just from the growth of one's fingernails to the development of a flower, we see that there is active creation happening, occurring at every moment. And so uh, it's saying that the time of Fajr represents this, and it recalls the divine acts present in them. So it recalls the idea that at any moment, uh, nothing that's coming into existence can be of its own doing, can be of a agent within this universe, can be of something that is not divine, right? It recalls that everything at every moment must be pointing, must have a source of existence that is not of the nature of this world, that which we call a divine source, right? Um, so that's what I'm understanding, at least from what this time of Fajr represents. Uh, and also, early morning and Fajr, spring, moment of conception, the mother's womb, all of these are also associated with certain emotions too, I think, right? Um, Usually they're of hope and happiness. Uh, we like seeing life. We like seeing um, creation occurring anew. Um, it represents, I think, in a sense, that which we long for, which is eternal existence. Um, yeah. Any thoughts on this so far? Um, okay, I will continue, but feel free to chip in, and we'll see how all of this is connected to each other, I guess. Keeping in mind, uh, the points that were made in the previous paragraph so far. So it's saying the time of Dhuhr, just past midday. This resembles and points to midsummer and the prime of youth and the period of man's creation and the lifetime of the world, and calls to mind the manifestations of mercy and the abundant bounties they contain. So the time of Dhuhr resembles and points to midsummer, the prime of youth and the period of man's creation in the lifetime of the world, and calls to mind the manifestations of mercy and the abundant bounties they contain. So, in a very similar fashion, there's this direct connection between uh, the time of Dhuhr, the time in a normal 24-hour day, and my life as a human being. Just as Fajr, early dawn might represent me as a baby, as a child. Dhuhr, the time of midday, represents the prime of my youth. Um, that in which I'm, I guess, a full adult. I don't know. You can consider it 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, perhaps even. Um, but sort of the zenith point in which uh, everything has bloomed, and in summer, uh, it's just greenery is there, uh, and 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 the qualities, the divine qualities that it connects this time of day, this period of time, right, are of mercy, is of mercy. Calls to mind the manifestations of mercy and the abundant bounties they contain. So just as early dawn, the time of Fajr, might point to uh, the necessity of there being a source of existence, and the acts that are associated with that. The time of dhuhr, midday, points to how mercy and compassion are being very much so reflected in my life, reflected in my everyday life, reflected in my moment to moment experience of existence. And so, again, we see this connection between the time of day with the time of one's lifespan, I guess, the period of a certain period in one's lifespan, and the divine qualities or the qualities that one experiences with that, what they point to, what they mirror. And so it continues the time of Asr, afternoon. This is like autumn and old age, and the time of the final prophet, peace be upon him, known as the era of bliss, and recalls the divine acts and the favors of the all merciful one present in them. And before we discuss this, I see that there's a hand up. Brother Ali, please go ahead.
Thank you. We are studying these times of glorification, times of uh, praising, glorifying, exalting the Creator. So the author obviously is uh, explaining that these times are the most vivid, apparent change, change taking place in the course of all lifespan of the universe, but we are expected to experience all these events happening within a day. And that is why our Creator required us to pray, to glorify, to praise, to exalt the name of the Creator, because these are the times of divine acts presenting themselves to us and asking us to respond back to them. So every day, actually, we are revising the creation of the whole universe from the beginning to the end. But every day, the time of the specific day, the time of the specific time of the day is assigned for us to respond back, so that we will say, look, in the very early dawn, before even the sun rises, you will remember that there is a beginning of everything. And these are the acts of a divine power, divine quality. So you have to acknowledge it. You have to remember that it is His grace to you. So we have to respond back to this manifestation of the qualities of the Creator, giving giving them their due right. You are great. For example, time of the baby in the womb of the mother before birth, between the birth and the perception of birth time, it is a preparation. So the beginning of the spring, the seeds are slowly coming up. You don't know what is going on. Can you imagine, for example, we don't know. First time we are experiencing this, we don't know anything of what is going to follow. We see that there are things are coming out of the earth. It is so exciting. Who is doing this? What is going on there? So we have to refresh our mind in the very early dawn, that Somebody is demonstrating something. Later on, during the Zuhur midday prayer, we see them, they grow up and became apparent that they are certain vegetables, trees, different kinds of plantations, different kinds of animals are coming out and appearing clearly. We say, who is doing this? It must be the act of a one who is manifesting his mercy. And also, again, in the Asr time, which is afternoon prayer time, like the fall, the harvests are collected now. Harvests as harvests are gathered, and we see the results of all the strange things are going on in the earth. The same thing is going on at the level of the day, at the level of the human life, at the level of the lifespan of the earth. And of course, necessarily, we understand that there is a circle going on within the universe, and this shows us the different stages of creation of the whole universe. Now, here, the Quran says you can imagine 6 stages of creation of the whole universe. So we are expected to remember all the magnificent manifestations of the qualities of the universe. As a human beings, conscious human beings, we have to respond back, at least confess, acknowledge that something extraordinary, something divine is happening in the world, and we accept it, we glorify it, we praise it. It means respond back, respond back. The creator apparently, obviously, doesn't need to be praised. He is manifesting his absolute qualities out there, but we have to express our wonder, our excitement that this is the manifestation of a glory, of a one who deserves to be glorified, who deserves to be praised, who deserves to be exalted. It means you are the absolute being, demonstrating yourself to me, so showing yourself that you are, uh, disclosing yourself to me, so that I will know who my owner is, who my creator is, and I acknowledge it. Nothing within the universe can be responsible for all these actions taking place. So the reciprocal relationship between what is being manifested in the universe and how conscious human beings should or are expected to respond back to this manifestation, that is just an in harmony with the universe and human consciousness. Only this way that human beings can be satisfied about their existence, about their life. Otherwise, we would be so helpless. What is going on in this world? What is happening to me from my very babyhood until on the life as a fetus in my mother? And who is taking me all these stages of creation? And at the end, I am dying. What is going on? Who is doing all this? If we don't acknowledge the manifestation of the qualities of the absolute being who is demonstrating himself to me, if we don't acknowledge it, we will be suffocated with meaninglessness. Meaninglessness. What is going on here? Imagine every time we stand for prayer, it means declaring our excitement, declaring our conclusion to What is happening there as a in our existence, in the existence of the world, in the existence of the universe, everywhere. So, as a response to these manifestations, if we don't do it, we will be living a meaningless life. What does it mean? What is happening? All these strange things. I don't know. At the end, I'm going to die. And what is this wondrous things? What are these wondrous things for? I don't know. I don't know even by myself. Look how helpless, how useless, how worthless the human being becomes if they don't acknowledge and respond back to these manifestations. It is a beautiful way of understanding the meaning of prayer. Why 5 times a day? Why a certain times of a day? Why not, for example, I can go to my room after work in the evening and close the light, reflect on it, and respond back. Oh, excuse me, it is too late. It is not vivid now for you. It is not alive. You are not really experiencing it, seeing it, experiencing it, and being under the influence of the effect of these magnificent acts of creation. No, it is, we must live it and witness it happening in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I continue, thank you for that explanation, and that really makes sense. Um, I have more to say, but I saw that there was another hand up in case uh, that person wants to speak again. They can just there you go. Okay.
Hey, salams. Hi, it's Tolu. Um, the question I had was um, with the prayers being 5 times a day, every day. Um, Speaking for myself, at least as a human being, it feels for me that it can become quite monotonous and dry. I guess is the only other word I can think of. Dry. Um, you know, I think the question I have is basically it can lose meaning. It because it happens so many times, like every day, daily. Over time, it loses I don't know, effect or meaning or energy or excitement or any of those words. And I find myself like zoning out a lot in prayer. And I was yeah. So I heard what Dr. Ali just said about kind of like referring it to creation and what we're seeing, what we're experiencing. I just find that from a practical human point of view in my day-to-day life, I can find myself zoning out because it happens so often and it happens every day. And I was wondering if anyone else has the same experience and what people's thoughts are on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Um, thank you for that genuine concern. Um, if anyone wants to respond to it, they can feel free to raise their hand uh, or make a comment. You know, in conjunction with what Brother Ali was saying, that specific times uh, of the day are acting as reminders for us to respond back, right? That change acts as a reminder for me to pay attention. Um, I can, I think we're all human. I think I can definitely understand how um, prayers can appear to me something that I'm just kind of repetitively doing, or something that loses meaning for me because of perhaps its repetitive nature, and that because of this, it can be difficult to 24/7 be engaged in a meaningful way with it. I think that, I mean, here are a few thoughts. They might not be so cohesive, but you can do what you will with it. I think that, first of all, this text is reminding us that there are constant revolutions going on in in the world, and in connection with that, of course, in our life. Um, and we do get caught up. I get caught up in my day-to-day events of life, or obligations, or routines and schedules, that I may not take notice of these revolutions, or even call them revolutions. I'll just call them sunrise, sunset, things that just happen every day. But I guess the text is inviting us to to look at them with new eyes each time, and realize the fact that within a 24-hour day, I am being constantly invited to notice notice that something is going on, and that which is going on is something meaningful. Now, whether I can always access this meaningfulness of it or not is difficult to discern, right? But let's say there's a faucet of meaningfulness. I may not always be able to get anything from that faucet, but if I don't bring a cup to it, right, a physical cup to it, should there be meaning coming from it, I have something that catches it, something that allows me to catch it and drink from it. And I think prayer acts as this mechanism in which, should I be able to realize the meaningfulness of something, prayer is a way in which my speech, my actions, and my consciousness become all aligned together. And so that's a very rough way of trying to put together my thoughts on the matter. Um, but I think the matter, the essence of the situation is that although there is meaning all the time, at every single moment, no one, definitely not myself, I'm not conscious of it 24/7. If I'm conscious of it even a little bit at one point in the day, that's a plus. But these times act as invitations to try and capture that meaning, to try and realize that meaning, to try and acknowledge what is going on, and realize that, though my day and my existence or my experiences may seem repetitive, that there's a very dynamic nature. There's a very dynamism to my creation, to my existence, the passing and going of all things. And prayer acts as a way to give the due right of these things, to give them their worth, if you will, to stop and say, okay, even though things feel repetitive and things feel like the same as before, there is something different here for me if only I focus on it and try to cultivate that. Now, it may not be possible to cultivate that consciousness all the time or in each prayer, but at least each prayer acts as almost this opportunity to potentially cultivate it, or work on cultivating it, to be able to inculcate a mindset that is more receptive to the meaning that is always out there. And so, these invitations to prayer are for myself, because as a human being, I want meaning. I don't like things to be dull. I don't want things to not have meaning. I don't want things to just be dry, right? That's the opposite of what I want. I want every day to be new and exciting, right? And I guess, just as if you go to the gym, you're building muscle in such a way. The action of going to the gym may be a sort of prayer to build muscle that's gradual. I think prayer can also act as a way as a practice in which one engages in a contemplation of existence, and a contemplation of the qualities that are existent and persistent and continuously being sustained in the universe. Um, and a way to be able to further consciousness of of the meaningfulness that is taking place whether I realize it or not. Um, Again, I'm sure others can share their experiences as well and in a more coherent fashion. I realized that we also had a comment in the chat box, so perhaps the person who wrote it can share that, and then I'll give the microphone over to Brother Ali. So, the friend who shared the comment, would you like to read it out loud or would you like me to? Okay, I'll read it and then so they wrote, someone like me who is new to prayer and someone who's going through what our brother mentioned, it makes me think of a rhythm that I bet most or all Muslims go through concerning prayer. Even that rhythm relates to the times of day, seasons, birth and death cycle. Oh, and before that, sorry, um, uh, they wrote, I feel like I have the opposite problem of what our brother mentioned. I reverted this summer, so prayer feels like pure confusion and work for me. Um, I sweat when I pray, worried I'm doing it wrong. I'm almost jealous of it being mundane and boring. So thank you for sharing that. And I invite others to share and respond as well. Brother Ali, you can go now.
Now, I would give credit to my friend Talu. Talu, if the creation out there was standard, not renewing itself, manifesting itself in different forms, the same thing is repeated. The same thing is repeated. But in reality, it doesn't. For example, if you eat the same food every day, yes, you get really somehow bored of it. And there are examples in the Quran that the children of Israel said that we are fed up with the same food again and again for years. Somehow it is human. But we want change, we want difference. And the difference makes the excitement to be refreshed. So if it was standard, I would say, yeah, the prayer becomes a routine and to a certain extent, not very exciting and boring, doing the same thing again and again and again. But the nature of prayer is a response to what is going on out there in front of me, manifested. For example, if you stay in a how are they called? Movie theater. What keeps you sitting there for 3 hours? You don't get bored because the scene on the screen is continuously changing. If there was a standard scene there, yes, you would just leave the theater, movie theater, and go home because it is boring after 2 or 3 minutes. So we are not being presented the same food over and over again. Every morning, sun rises in a different fashion with a different scenery. Every day, the clouds are continuously demonstrating a different scenery for us. So each, if you like, the section of the creation, which is different from the previous ones, needs to be acknowledged. The reason, another reason, why we feel bored and repetitive doing the same actions 5 times a day. I understand this because we concentrate on the prayer itself, what we are going to read, whether we are making, as the sister said, we are as we are going to make a mistake in the rules and the principles. It means the concentration is focused on the forms of the prayer. It's a problem. You have to think about the forms of the prayer while you are not praying, while you are not in the prayer position, so that you will learn how
Brother Ali, we can't hear your voice. We lost your voice.
there you are responding back. For example, you are playing with a baby, and the baby is doing interesting actions, trying to speak to you, smiling, or trying to walk as a toddler, and following it, and expecting you to come and help the baby and wake him, keep him in new position. It becomes not boring. Every moment becomes an exciting because you are responding something continuously changing and exciting outside of your world, the personal inner world. So your inner world must be connected to the outside world, and then you have to experience this. For example, it is not our habit to look through the window at this if we are in the house, look around, look at the sky, look around the world. You will see many different kinds of creation at the different sections of a day. So, as a response back to them, what you have seen, you have to get excited because of the manifestations, how the great and perfect manifestations, interesting things are going on there outside. And then come back, yes, I acknowledge. This is the manifestation of a one who is really presenting himself to me. And I have to say, I acknowledge you. You are the object of worship for me. And I don't really think that the earth is growing the plants, etc. And the stars and galaxies and the clouds are consciously moving and making a continuously changing scenery for us. The sun is glaring up there just for nothing. They are, it is really providing, it is employed to provide the source of energy of life for the living beings, and maybe other factors as well, functions as well. I don't know, I'm not a specialist of it. There may be many. So, and it is another way of demonstrating that continuously changes it from morning to the noon and afternoon and sunset and also night, continuously changing. In a nutshell, it's very simple. Our prayer is not performed in the form of a response to what is going on out there and how our feelings were impressed by the manifestations taking place outside, and also our imagination must expand it from the day conditions, as the text is repeatedly teaching us. Look, you have to think of the morning, early dawn, for the preparation of the new acts of creation coming or prepared, and they are going to come out, and we will experience them noontime in other types of main figures of manifestation. Afternoon, the sunset, and night. These are all different kinds of manifestations. And then you remember at night your life in the grave. You remember at night your, we will read it, inshallah. The life of the earth is really fading away and dying. You remember that universe also is going to die, come to an end. So in the darkness of night, we remember the darkness of meaningless of the universe because it is dead now. One day will come and it will die. So how can I find a point of refuge? Where can I seek refuge with now? Because my spirit says, no, it is boring. I don't want it. I don't want to go into annihilation. What shall I do? And then you say, Subhanallah, God is glorified. That's glory because it is the one who is demonstrating that I shouldn't put my trust in the universe, in any part of the universe, because they are destined to disappear from existence. They cannot sustain their existence. So you have to turn your, if you like, the eyes of your heart to the creator, to the source of existence of these magnificent manifestations of the creator, introducing himself to me. And I would say, only you we praise. You are the great one. It means you are beyond the imagination, beyond the limitations of this universe. You must be the only one I belong to. And that gives the serenity, comfort to my spirit. That is the gist of the prayer. If I or you, any one of us, prays by concentrating on the meaning of it, on the rules of the prayer, and I have to pronounce the verses in the perfect way during the prayer, of course, it becomes a burden. It becomes a burden for me, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't really learn how to recite, how to act during the prayer, but this must be done either before or after the prayer, not during the prayer. During the prayer is only emotions are shared. Emotions are acting. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Ali, for the really beautiful explanation and sharing uh, of how we should approach um, prayer and what it means to us as human beings. Let me just pause before. Okay, so H. Beza has a comment. Would you like to read your comment?
Sure, inshallah. It was just reiterating the point that was made, but what really struck out to me was the concept of prayer being a sort of response, right? Not something that I check off my to-do list as if something I have to get done, like a sort of obligation that I'm held to that I'd rather not do. Um, and I think, as was said, the problem comes from, in part also, from just taking things for granted. Going into this autopilot mode where, I already know the sun is going to set today and tomorrow morning the sun will rise again. Like, what's the big deal? Sort of response or lack of response, I guess, in a way, just taking things for granted and not really thinking about what is actually going on at this very moment right now as I exist, and all of these feelings and thoughts are just coming to me and words are forming and I'm saying something and you're hearing something and you're able to make sense of whatever it is that I'm saying. All of these things, just, I can easily, and most of the time I take them for granted. And in that, I think, leads me to, or it's easy to have, these dry prayers where I don't feel much if I don't make an effort not make an effort to um, make an effort not to place these or make an effort to basically remove these hindrances that I already impose upon myself by taking things for granted. So, and then the other point being that this responding to what is going on around me is already within me, in the sense that it's already a natural. By natural, I mean it's an innate. I've been created with the feeling of wanting to respond. If I go to an amusement park or a museum, or I don't know, a banquet or something, I will look around. I will be engaging with what is going on around me. And when I look at my existence, everything looks to me. It corresponds to me in one way or another. It ignites or incites certain feelings within me. So it's only quote unquote natural, or it's just the next step. It's not something that's forced upon me to look around and be like, whoa, what's going on? It's the amazement or the wonder that comes from just thinking about it. It's not something that I need to force myself. Um, as long as I don't put up these blocks around myself and take things for granted in my day-to-day life. And if I do, then it feels repetitive. It feels like something I have to force myself to do. But in reality, it's just like, I don't know, like maybe you're in class and it's not that you have to respond to the teacher's question because it counts for participation points or whatever, but it's such an engaging class that you almost have no choice but to respond back, just because of how engaging the material is and it really interests you or something like that.
Thank you for sharing that. And we have a few minutes here left. And let me also ask Shahira if she'd like to read her comment.
Assalamualaikum. I guess I just wanted to add to the comments and say that my relationship with prayer has evolved a lot as I grew up, and I have a deeper understanding of who my creator is, thanks to this class and Dr. Murmur, alhamdulillah. And I find myself looking forward to prayer, even though I know that I may not have memorized as many verses as I would like to, but I just look forward to it because it's my chance to connect with my creator. And at the same time, my life conditions change as well through the years, and my needs change. And every single prayer to me is a chance to reconnect with my creator and to seek his help and guidance. So it's not just about praising my creator, but it's also prayer. I think we've learned through this class that it's a gift for us. So it really has been an opportunity for me to have a higher understanding of myself and of life. And whenever I lose sight of this, and it does happen because I'm human, that's when I know I need to do something to get back to that place, to that state of mind again. And I just want to remind our sisters and brothers that the creator is the most compassionate, and when we come to him with our hearts full of sincerity and hope, and just reverence, he accepts, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Brother Ali, and then we'll conclude, inshallah.
Yeah, before we conclude, I want to make a suggestion for you as a moderator. So I think in general, we covered all this part of the rest of the fourth point. So we can start fresh next week with fifth point. But why we can just read it and see if there are some points that we can study next week. Otherwise, we can start from the fifth point. That's just a suggestion, if you like it.
We can do that. Let me also see by, if people can raise their hands if they think we should start with the fifth point next week. Everyone who thinks that, if you can just raise a hand. If nobody participates, then I'll just, all right. We have one person, two people. Anyone that would like to study the fourth point more? Let me say that instead. Okay, so okay. So I think what we'll do is starting next week, we can just finish reading the fourth point and then see then if anyone wants to, further discuss some portions of it. I think that's a good idea too. And before I conclude today's session, I just wanted to share a few thoughts, which is that I think what's really crucial is that this was emphasized in the second point. I can't externalize prayer, right? Prayer is not supposed to be something that is external to me. It is fundamentally related to my human needs. So it's fundamentally related to what I am experiencing, and this may be an experience, as is outlined here, of the various phenomena that is going on, the various changes, the constant changes that are going on in the universe, but also the constant changes that are going on within my own internal universe. Whether I feel a need in terms of my relationship with someone, then prayer becomes a haven for me to verbalize that need and say, glorify him, praise him, exalt him, and say that I am not the source of a resolution. Nothing in this world is, except the one who is giving me existence, the one who is creating this for me. If I am in need of guidance regarding, my work or school or anything in my life, prayer again acts as a way through which I express this need, and I express the fact that I can take no refuge in anything. I can't take any refuge in anything except him, except my creator, the sustainer, the one who is creating everything that I experience in the world around me, and the one who is also creating the various feelings that I'm undergoing, and reminding me through those feelings to seek him and to seek the one who can fully satisfy my human expectations in this world. So with that, I will close today's session. Inshallah, again, next week's moderator can take note of this. Next week, we can finish reading this fourth point, and then if everyone wants to just go on to the fifth point, we can, but if there are questions raised, then we'll stay a little bit more with it, just to make sure we're not passing by the text too much. But, as Brother Ali said, we did cover, I think, the points, the general points of this fourth point. So again, we'll see if there are questions next week, inshallah. Alright, Alhamdulillah, subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana, innaka antal alim al-hakim, wa akhiru dawana an alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum everyone.